Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. I'm a life and marriage coach, wife, mom of three, an Aries, and for my fellow human design nerds, a sacral manifesting generator. This podcast is for women who want to be happier in their marriage as they navigate their journey through motherhood, even if you're like me and you weren't shown how while growing up. In each episode, I'll be covering topics that will help you love and enjoy your marriage again without waiting until your kids are all grown up. And a quick note, you may want to pop your earbuds in if your kids are also listening, because nothing is left unsaid on this show, which means there may be times where something is said that you don't want them to hear. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. So today, we're going to be talking about something that is often something moms are looking for, trying to create for themselves, but struggle to, and that is balance. Balancing marriage, motherhood, yourself, right? Your own personal well-being. Balance is a tricky word here, and a lot of people have mixed feelings about the word balance, but I don't want you to get too caught up on the word balance itself. I just want to use this time to acknowledge that as a woman who plays so many roles, right? For me personally, I play so many roles that I want to be able to help you feel like you're thriving in life, okay? Not to feel like you are being pulled in so many directions that you're just going to split apart. I want you to feel whole and to be able to serve these different roles within your own capacity and know how to do it without feeling like you're broken all of the time or like you're failing all of the time. Okay? I know that if you ask any mom out there, I bet that they're going to tell you that they have a hard time figuring out how to find the balance between playing all three of these roles, right? Being a mom, being a wife, being a woman who is taking care of herself. And the most common outcome is for the kids to take the highest priority, right? Let me know if this is also you. Have your kids become your highest priority since they've come out. Once you get past the kids, right, then comes the marriage and then maybe yourselves. But oftentimes it's more like the kids take up all the availability of the priority, and then the marriage and your well-being get the leftovers, which often are nothing. The fumes, right? The little crumbs that are left, if you have any of that available. And as a result, you're probably feeling exhausted, burned out, right? Your marriage doesn't feel like it used to. You're arguing a lot more. It feels heavier, stressful, less fun, and you've completely dropped all your hobbies, your interests. You probably go out with your friends a lot less, right? And the things that brought you joy, you don't do anymore because you want to be a good mom, right? And so you've unintentionally stopped doing all of this stuff to be able to live up to this name of being a good mom. Now, if you can relate to this and you've been trying to figure out how to juggle it all, to be a good wife, to be a good mom, to be good to yourself, then this is definitely for you, and definitely keep listening in. I'm going to be sharing today 5 things that you can do to create balance your way so that it doesn't feel like you're being pulled in a million directions, where you feel like you can only pick one thing to do well and all the other things feel like epic fails. This topic was inspired by a call that I had with my client this morning. It was actually our very, very last call, and it was with the husband, actually. Now, on the last call of coaching with me, I always use it as an opportunity to reflect on the progress that my clients have made throughout the 12 weeks that we got to work together. We list out the initial goals that they shared, what challenges they were experiencing before we started working together that inspired the goals that they came up with. And then we dive into how things are today, right? What contributed to the progress that they've seen and experienced, and how they currently feel about how things are now. Now, I do this for various reasons, right? It's really easy to notice how much more work there is to be done. But when we look back, that's when we realize, oh my gosh, there has been progress. And it's always good to assess, well, how did I get here? So that if we fall off the tracks, right? Life happens. Sometimes it happens that way. It's good to remember, well, how did we get here? What are some things that I can start doing again? What are some things that I can remind myself of, right? And one of his goals was to prioritize his marriage and himself better. And throughout our time together, he realized that what his priorities were versus what he was prioritizing did not match up. They didn't match up. When he stopped to really think about what matters most to him, it was his family, his marriage, his kids, and himself. But when he thought about what he was doing, his actions did not always reflect that, right? He found himself prioritizing things that he, quote unquote, should do without realizing how much it was taking him away from what matters most, which were his relationships, right? For example, he was like, okay, well, I gotta be healthy, so I have to work out. I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to work out. But he was working out twice a day. And he would find that when it was time to put his kids to bed, his daughter would try and talk to him, and he would be so tired. And when we're tired, we're less present. We don't have as much patience. We don't have as much compassion. And he found himself rushing through the process. Now, I don't know about you, but I can totally relate to this, right? When I'm exhausted, I'm like, y'all got to go to sleep so that I can get time to myself and I can go to bed, right? I find myself rushing through the process and getting snippy instead of truly being present with my kids, cherishing the final moments that we get with each other before we separate for the night. And he had this realization, it's like, why does it matter so much to me to get up at 5 a.m. to work out when it's getting in the way of me connecting, when it's getting in the way of my relationships, what actually matter, right? He was keeping him stuck where he had a lot of flexibility, right? Like he had different times to go work out. He could do that differently. So that's what inspired this topic here today. And I wanted to share 5 ways that you can start to create more balance in your life, your way, while playing these 3 most impactful roles that you have for yourself, right? Wife, mom, and woman, right? Your own self. So number 1 is assessing your priorities, right? Identify what matters most to you, okay? Determine what your priorities are from that. Not what they should be, but what you want them to be. Because there's things that we say matter, and then when we take a look at what we're actually doing, they don't align. And that's where we have a problem, okay? Because that's where guilt is born. Or we're like, yes, it's really important that I have really healthy relationships with my family, but I don't have time to spend with them. But when I'm with them, I am not very nice. But et cetera, right? So many different ways that we can cause ourselves guilt when we aren't congruent with what our real priorities are versus what our actions are saying our priorities are. Okay. I would say that this is something that has come up for every single one of my clients. They were following a routine or a set of rules of how their schedule should be, how their home should run, what they should be doing and how, right? Because that's what their parents did, or that's what their friends do, or that's what Pinterest says good mom should be doing, or Instagram, like wherever you're getting these ideas. And what it ended up doing was it created more anxiety and stress than freedom, connection, and joy, right? So if this is you, then take the time to metaphorically say, fuck it, right? Start from scratch so that you can start to choose to do life in a way that's aligned with your actual priorities. Because when you understand what truly matters, then you can empower yourself by choosing where your time and energy goes versus feeling like you're backed into a corner with no other options. Okay? This here is what a lot of people learn the hard way when something catastrophic happens, when they're faced with a life milestone that we don't particularly enjoy, like a death of a loved one, an illness that scares us, an injury that scares us, where we start to wake up and like, oh my gosh, time is limited. Life is not guaranteed. And we really have to be intentional about how we're spending it. Am I putting my time and energy where it matters? Or is my life filled with frivolous things that really at the end of the day don't really matter? They don't contribute to me creating the life that I want for myself for however much time I have left here. Okay? So assess your priorities. Number 2 is setting boundaries. First of all, no is a complete sentence. That is lesson number 1 of setting boundaries. As moms, we all need boundaries. Well, everyone needs boundaries, but we're talking to moms here, right? You need boundaries with yourself, with your work, if you go out and work, your kids, your husband, and literally with anything or anyone that you have a relationship with, okay? Setting boundaries goes hand in hand with assessing your priorities. If you do this right, setting and following through on your boundaries will help you make sure that you're working towards your priorities instead of feeling stagnant, like you're getting nowhere. You're standing still, maybe moving backwards even. And when you're actually making decisions around what matters to you, right, you're keeping that top of mind, life should feel more light, peaceful, content, joyful. Because you have a sense of direction, you have clarity, you are moving towards something. And you can make decisions based on where you're headed, right? And you can do this by protecting your personal time, your energy, your family time, time with your husband, instead of just making decisions on the fly with no sense of direction, right? That's where you get that feeling of regret and guilt and feeling like you're being pulled in a million directions because you don't have an anchor. But when you have your priorities clear, you have that groundedness of like, okay, it's important to me for us to blank. So I will make these decisions that support that. Okay. Now, historically, women have had a tough time saying no because we don't want to let other people down. We've been raised as people pleasers. And now we're in this generation where we are breaking out of that or attempting to, and we're trying to raise future women to not do that, right? And in the process of avoiding this discomfort of disappointing people, we're being nice to them. We're letting ourselves down to avoid letting other people down. But I want to make it clear that disappointing other people does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you mean. It doesn't make you unkind. Okay? We have to start understanding the difference between being kind, right? And being nice. We want to shoot for being kind. Okay? It is not kind to agree to do something and essentially abandon yourself, to sacrifice yourself, because anyone who loves you wouldn't want that for you. If you're saying yes to something, that's also saying, I'm fine with doing this. But if internally you are not fine with it, that is not kindness. That is not a relationship of honesty and openness. Okay? You can be kind without bending to everyone's will and being everyone else's everything, or what they want you to be for them. Meanwhile, you're being nothing to yourself, right? You've got to be your biggest advocate. And I'll be your biggest advocate until you get there, but you have to get there. You've got to work on becoming that for yourself. And setting boundaries is a great way to exercise self-love and self-care. Okay? So if you've got a lot going on and you don't have the capacity to make it to someone's party, help someone move, I don't know, babysit someone's child, don't do it. Don't do it, right? If attending something or helping someone else with something is going to put you in a bad mood where you're going to be irritable towards your kids, towards your husband, and leave you feeling guilty about it afterwards, say no, right? You can always help in another way, help another time when you have the capacity for it. Okay? That doesn't mean you're going to end up being an asshole. That is never there for these people. What I'm saying is, make yourself a factor in it too. Okay? Don't automatically say yes because you want to be seen as a supportive friend, as a supportive coworker, as a supportive daughter, whatever. Okay? So when you know your priorities and you've got that anchor, you know what matters to you, let that help you discern what's essential and what isn't, so that it can simplify your decision making instead of you spending a lot of time, I want to do this, but if I do this, this is what's going to happen, right? I don't want to disappoint them, but also I'm going to regret this later. When you have clarity about what matters to you, you can decide with so much more ease, so much less guilt, because in the grand scheme of things, it helps you out more. Okay? We don't want to take away from your capacity. We just want to work with it. Okay? Number 3, quality time with your husband, right? Nothing can substitute quality time with your person. Nothing. If you're not making time to connect with each other, you're going to feel distant. You're going to feel disconnected. You're going to feel like co-parenting roommates. Maybe you'll argue a lot more, right? But you already know this because you've experienced it. I've experienced it. And maybe you're still experiencing it. But I think the biggest misconception here is that doing things for your husband is enough, right? Cooking for him, doing his laundry, cleaning the house, raising the kids, helping him run errands, surprising him with things, being nice to him, keeping him on track when he forgets stuff, right? All of these things are amazing, right? They're kind, they're caring, they're considerate, they're even generous. But you know what? They're not. They're not things that create connection between you two. They're nice gestures, but they're not doing much to bring you two closer together as a couple. Doing things for your partner can never replace doing things with your partner. That's really important. And I really want you to let that sink in. So I'm going to say that again. Doing things for your partner can never replace doing things with your partner. Okay. Connection is about having that quality time to create memories, to learn more about each other, to grow closer and form an even deeper bond with each other. If your marriage is a priority, then you've got to start blocking out time to hang out to do something as a couple. If you're waiting for the ability to find time, it's never going to happen, right? It's never going to happen. I don't know about you, but anytime I have an empty weekend, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like that, the golden ticket at Willy Wonka. Like, it never happens, right? But as soon as I realize that it's empty, it quickly fills up, right? It quickly fills up. That's just how life is. There's like a plethora of things to do to keep us busy. So finding the time, waiting for the time to appear is not a great way for you to exercise making your marriage a priority. Okay? Because it's just simply never going to happen. Or if it does, it's not going to happen consistently enough, right? It's not like when before you had kids. But even then, when you were dating, you intentionally went on dates, right? You'd go on dates on a weekly basis, or maybe twice a week, or every couple weeks, whatever your situation was. It was something that you looked forward to. It was something that you prioritized. It was something that happened, right? And if this is something that's truly a priority for you, then it's time to put your money where your mouth is and start proving it with your actions, with your intentions, and then putting it on the calendar, okay? You can do something that's fun, celebratory, adventurous, scary, healing, productive. There are so many different ways that you can connect with each other, and you get to make it your own. It can be different every time, or it could be the same, as long as it's fulfilling the goal of connecting, okay? Right? It doesn't even have to mean that you always have to do something outside of the home, especially if childcare is not something that you have available to you regularly or something that you feel comfortable with yet, right? You can have date nights in when the kids are in bed. And, okay, I know some of you are going to say this. Well, my kids go to bed really late. Adjust their bedtime schedule to support that, right? There are routines that you can set up to make sure that your kids are in bed early enough to give you time where you still have energy to hang out with your husband. You can set up your day to be lighter in responsibility or energetic resources required to have the energy left over. Okay? Work together to figure it out. You can have daily rituals to do together too, to have little moments of connection. There are literally an infinite number of ways that you can connect with each other if you stop thinking about like, oh, but I'm so busy, right? Like if you stop thinking about all the excuses and you dedicate those moments, your thinking power towards what can we do? What sounds like fun? You can make it happen. All right. Don't just relying on showing how much you care about him by doing things for him. You've also got to nurture the connection through intentional time with him, through deep conversations that'll allow you to know each other better and build on your emotional intimacy so you can go beyond surface level topics like the house, work, the kids. Okay. Number 4, quality time with your kids. As a mom with multiple children, right? I've got 3 kids. I understand with every kid, you're like, oh gosh, my life is so full. How can I have enough time and share my love so that each of them feel it, right? It's like this funny moment where I actually have a lot of friends who are pregnant right now, which is kind of funny. And they're all going through that. They're like, how do I do this? How do I make sure that this third child or my first and second child get the same love and they don't feel neglected, right? It's rare for me as a mom of multiple children to have time to spend extended one-on-one time with each child. That is just the reality of it, okay? If I were to make that a priority, I would literally have no time to do anything, okay? Instead, I focused on having small, intimate moments with each child in our daily routine and bond as a family. Okay, I'm just one person, and I've learned that it's not to the benefit of my family that I stretch myself too thin, right? I become a bitch if I'm being real. Okay, I don't like who I'm being, they don't like who I'm being, nobody wins. Okay, so I try my best to not do that. I try my best to know my capacity and work with that. Ask for support if I need. Okay, so this is where we go for impact and efficiency rather than quantity. Okay, so in shorter words, quality over quantity. So each week I have built in touch points with each child to check in, to be present with them, to be emotionally available to their needs, right? We have fun together as a family. Lately, we've been having game nights. Like we play Uno Flip, which if you haven't, I highly recommend playing it. I have a 3-year-old, a 6.5-year-old, and a 13.5-year-old, and we can all enjoy this game. And I'm actually amazed that like my 3-year-old can play it, which is like super exciting because my husband and I love games. We love board games, card games, all kinds of stuff. And I love that the list of things that we can involve her in is growing. So that's like super fun. But anyway, it's a twist on the original Uno game. So definitely check it out if you're also into card games like our family is. But anyway, as a family, we have dinner together every night. Sometimes we cook together. We do story time together, minus my teenager. He's not interested in that. We go on family hikes. We go to the park. We go on road trips. We explore, etc. Right? We are intentional about our time with our family and with each child. So whenever we find ourselves alone with a child, right? Like in the car, running errands, taking them to school or activities, any chance we have, we try and use that to nurture the relationship, right? We do our best to do that without necessarily adding more onto our plate. So you can definitely be present while also making sure that you're not wearing yourself too thin trying to love your kids. Okay. Number 5 is self-care and personal well-being. Okay. I know I'm mentioning this last, but this one is the most important. This literally gives you the energy to allow you to do all those other things. Okay. If you yourself are burned out and exhausted and you're not taking care of yourself, not doing things that bring you joy, then that's it, right? Just throw in the towel. Nothing else will be possible because you'll be running on fumes. Your family will be walking on eggshells around you because you're on edge all of the time, and saying the wrong thing or looking at you in the wrong way can set you off. That does not sound fun for you or them, right? I'm sure you don't want to be that person. And I definitely can get to be that person, but I hate it. I feel so guilty, so regretful, right? And I know that I can do something about that. I can prevent that from happening. And a lot of moms say that they don't have time to take care of themselves, and I can understand how convincing that can be. But one thing I realized and have had to repeatedly learn over and over again is that not all tasks, things that we do, are created equal on an energetic level. Some things drain our energy. For example, our kids, right? Housework. While other things can gift us energy. For example, taking care of ourselves, right? So
even though it does take time to support ourselves, it actually gives us the fuel we need to tend to the priorities that matter to us most, aka our relationships, right? Where most people have it wrong is that they think that they need to cut things out in order to not feel overwhelmed and burned out. And to a certain extent, it could be true, right? That there are things to eliminate from their routine. But that's not the only thing that needs to be done, right? Because no matter how much you cut out, there's still going to be responsibilities that you need to tend to that drain your energy. The answer isn't to take all of it away, to take all sources of stress away. That is impossible, right? What really needs to happen is that we need to be doing more things that bring us joy and peace. Those are the things that we are the quickest to let go of, right? As soon as we become a parent, those are the things that get dropped off first. So making sure that you are doing things that bring you joy, that help you feel like yourself, your old self, right? Help you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so refreshed. Whatever those things are, whether it's painting, whether it's hiking, whether it's doing yoga, meditating, I don't care. Do it. Because it's going to grow your capacity to handle all the other stuff that you do. Okay? So it may seem like you don't have time, but that's not it. You don't have the energy. And when you do all 5 of these things, right? Assessing your priorities, setting your boundaries, putting in that quality time for yourself, your husband, your kids. When you do things that help you thrive as a person, you'll notice that balancing all these areas of your life will become easier. It won't feel like you're a chicken with their head cut off. It'll feel more like, okay, yeah, I can be present when I'm doing this. I can be present while I'm doing this. Because you are helping yourself in a holistic way instead of just believing those excuses that your mind is telling you. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I guess it's just how life is. As a mom, I'm just going to be perpetually burned out and exhausted, right? Like, yeah, I'm tired, but I wouldn't say I'm burned out. I've got a lot going on. But because I do things that take care of me, I do things that I'm passionate about, I have the energy for it. Okay? So if you have to choose between disappointing someone else or yourself, please choose that other person. You matter most. You should be loving yourself most. And when you do this, right, when you do number 5, all these other things are going to open up for you. Okay? Now, if you are feeling burned out, exhausted, and you feel like your marriage is stuck in a cycle that you don't know how to get out of, try these things. Okay? Because these 5 things that I just shared with you are exactly how I balance motherhood, marriage, and my personal well-being, and exactly the things that I guide my clients to do that are creating such a large impact on their lives and a ripple effect on all of their village. Every single person who comes into contact with them now can leverage that from them, which is amazing. Okay? Their kids are picking up on it. Their husbands are picking up on it. Their friends are picking up on it. So the work that you do for yourself is so much more than just for yourself. Okay? You're here to live life fully. And the moment you can start making decisions to support yourself and the life that you want to build by prioritizing what matters most, is the point that you can start to feel more satisfied with life, marriage, and motherhood. Okay? And of course, if trying these things you want support with implementing these into your life, then I'm taking on new clients, individuals and or couples, and I would love to support you in building the life and the marriage that feels fun and light and so good. Okay? I'll pop the link in here to share with you the clarity call so you can book a time for us to talk where we can connect. You can tell me about what it is that you're wanting in your marriage, what challenges you're bumping up against, trying to create that for yourself, and what coaching can do to help you get that. Okay? Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing time for the rest of this week or the long weekend. And I want to hear from you what your biggest takeaway was. Okay, let me know what your biggest takeaway was and what you're committed to implementing to help you move forward in your life, in your marriage, in motherhood. That's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. I would so appreciate that. And if you love what I share here, then you're going to love and want to join my free private Facebook community that's also called Marriage and Motherhood. I hope to see and connect with you in there. Otherwise, I'll catch you back here next week for the next episode. Bye!